Hey guys, this week's episode is our Julio and Dynasty trade episode. Welcome back to episode 104. You're here with the coach and commish. It's been a little while.
It has.
It's kind of like our summer theme for the last going on 4 seasons. We've taken a little longer breaks in between recordings.
Yeah, we got stuff going on in lives. I'm about to have a baby. Literally
any second
I may
now.
have to leave this podcast and
if it's a solo
go to the
one,
hospital.
yeah, he'll just leave. I'll keep it running. All right, no excuse. Even with his wife screaming, "Hey, we gotta go!" I'll keep the podcast going just for you listeners. You got me, Tim Cook.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tim. I'll have to leave.
But yes,
Or Tim, Chris. I'm not calling you Tim. Shout out, Tim.
All right, so since our last episode, and when we did that, it was a lot of trades and initial free agency. We've had the draft, but we've also had some big trades. So here's a couple of things we want to talk about that have big fantasy impact. The big news a couple days ago, Julio Jones is now a Tennessee Titan. What are your thoughts on that for him personally leaving Atlanta, going to Tennessee? What do you think as a fantasy player? Would you be willing to reach for him, or are you backing off?
It's definitely a downgrade for me.
Okay.
That was kind of my thinking going into it. I have him in a couple leagues, and I was getting a little scared as to where he would go. Tennessee is not a bad landing spot. I think, Ryan Tannehill is fully capable of supporting him and A.J. Brown. The issue is the offense is not a very passing-heavy offense.
No.
Runs through Derrick Henry. But as far as that landing spot, it's better than most of them could have been. The big thing is I think he's going to have to become Julio Touchdown Jones. He's going to have to up his touchdown game, which may happen. Change of scenery. Maybe it was the play call, or maybe Matt Ryan just didn't enjoy throwing touchdowns to Julio Jones, and Ryan Tannehill will. But I think that's going to be what needs to happen for Julio, is he's going to need to up his touchdown, because the volume as far as pure yards this season, it's going to take a hit.
Yeah, and you mentioned the offense here. I think Julio would have been a great PPR receiver if the offense had a different tune.
Yeah.
Because you look at A.J. Brown's number. A.J. Brown was the big touchdown guy. 70 catches, 11 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Do that ratio, it was just big plays down the field. Now you're going to have guys on one side and the other, so defenses have to go single coverage on them. And so it's pick your poison. But I love the meme that I saw around lately. It's hey, A.J. Brown's open, Julio's open, hand it off to Derrick Henry. That's still going to be the primary. So let's talk about impact with 2 other players because of this trade. The man that he's leaving alone in Atlanta, Calvin Ridley. What are your thoughts about? Let me throw this up here. Calvin Ridley last year with Julio in and out of the lineup, 90 catches, 9 touchdowns. Are you thinking increase? Could we see 100 receptions with Calvin Ridley next year?
I would say that's almost a guarantee at this point. As long as he's healthy, there is news on him right now that he hasn't been practicing. I think he's fine. It's just kind of, we don't need to have him out there right now. This is not into actual training camp. What I think his fantasy ceiling is honestly top three wide receivers.
Really?
I think he's instantly vaulting up into that top 5 with the potential to break the top 3. We'll see what happens here. We'll talk later about Rodgers, but if there is no Rodgers, that brings, Devontae Adams takes a significant hit, and that's another spot that he may go up.
Yeah, Devontae Adams, who everyone is favorite wide receiver 1, could come down. Ridley's at 4. You thinking a whole movement swap? Could be.
Yeah, I think so. As far as going into the draft season, it's coming closer and closer. It's almost
I can't
here.
wait.
Almost here. But when you get into drafts, I think his ADP is going to go crazy. There's a lot of people that love. By the way, if you hear this crazy rainstorm that's going on,
it's coming down hard over
in our
here.
studios, we're getting pelted. That's what that random noise might be. But for Calvin Ridley, I think people are going to value him high. I think he'll start to be in that upper 2nd round pick. I think right now he's going closer the end of the 3rd or middle 3rd.
Yeah.
But that's going to skyrocket. As far as paying for him, I think he's worth it. If he's not, in that 1st round and you're looking for your wide receiver 1, I think he's a top 5 wide receiver this season.
Yeah, so he's definite 1st round wide receiver in almost any draft.
Yeah, I think he will be.
Wow. I believe it.
Yep.
I think he should be as well.
The hype will rise.
Yeah, it will rise with that. And A.J. Brown, again, it might be a little change in his numbers, or it could help him with everybody looking to take care of Julio as well in coverage.
I don't take that viewpoint. I think it's going to hurt him. I mean, I could try to be optimistic about it, but I honestly think that A.J. Brown, this sucks for A.J. Brown. Like, if you got him in Dynasty, like a friend of ours, Tim James, the guy that I called you earlier in the podcast, he's got him, and he's not happy about it. It's a hit for A.J. Brown. The offense will be better, so, there's potential for more points scored. But he was already, like you said, a big touchdown guy, so it's not like that number is going to get a lot higher.
Yeah, I mean, what he had 11 last year. I'm trying to look at his touchdowns. If he gets to 8 or 9, you're going to be disappointed, but those are the games that you want. And you don't want them just all in one spread. You don't want a 3-touchdown game in 1 week.
Yeah.
And then that's what his averages are going to propel him, but you've got duds for 2 weeks in a row.
It's going to come down to ADP for him.
Okay.
If people are down on him and he's now, low-end wide receiver 2, then, take a shot. The guy's super talented. He's in a good offense.
And Julio gets hurt.
Yes, that's true. I mean, that is built into his price. If Julio goes down, then you instantly have, potential for a wide receiver 1 on your team.
All right. So let's talk about some QB battles with rookies and veterans.
Yeah, it's starting to happen in training camp here.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna kick it over to you for this one here.
Okay.
Let's start with the San Francisco battle here. Jimmy G's still there.
Yeah.
And Trey Lance has come in as the incumbent. What do you think's going to happen? How's this going to shake out?
Shanahan loves
Jimmy Garoppolo, by the way, if you don't know who that I'm talking about.
Jimmy G, yeah. No, he loves Trey Lance ability, and the offense opens up with him.
Yeah.
But Jimmy G, in my opinion, going to be the starter week 1.
Okay.
And it's going to be Jimmy G's job to lose. If they're not winning with him, they'll switch him. But if they're playing winning ball and they got all their defense back, Garoppolo will stay the starter here in year 1 because Lance has a lot. If you know football and watch the draft, you know how much he's played one really full season. And this past season, he played 1 game because they couldn't get any games going for them in their league. So there's still a lot of growing for him. So I think Garoppolo will be the guy in San Francisco this year because guess what? He's going to have to audition for somebody else. He knows he's on the way out.
Yeah.
He needs to play well.
And then the other one we have here is Chicago, another rookie coming in Justin Fields. He's a guy that I really liked in the draft process. If I was a team and I was just looking at based on a quarterback's ability to run an offense, I think he would have been the quarterback that I would pick first. And then he'll be going against the Red Rocket himself, Andy Dalton. So what's your thoughts there?
Well, I think Fields will win the job here probably by their bye week or week 4.
Yeah.
I was listening to the NFL Network this morning, watching it, and they brought up a great point that I did not see earlier. Was that week 1? I think their first opponent for Chicago is the Rams, and they've got a great pass rush.
Yeah, a guy named Aaron Donald does a pretty good job at that.
So they might say, hey, let's not throw him out there with all the expectations against one of the best interior pass rushers in NFL history.
Instead, we'll throw Andy Dalton to the Wolves.
Yeah, throw Dalton to the Wolves and then let him come out. But if Fields wins it, coming out of camp, coming out of preseason, I won't be surprised.
Yeah, so we'll segue that into our next segment here, which is we're going to talk some draft stock up and some draft stock down.
Yeah.
And a draft stock up guy for me is Allen Robinson. And the reason that I think his draft stock has gone up is because of Justin Fields. I think he, like you said, he's going to win that job sooner rather than later. I think he probably has one of the best chances. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence is going to start day 1. But of the other rookies, he's got a good chance to get on the field early. And I think even if it's not Justin Fields, I think Andy Dalton and Justin Fields, whoever it is an upgrade over Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles. So I just think that he's somebody that people are going to forget about how talented Allen Robinson was, and that if he has some competent QB play in there now, then I think he's got a real good chance of being wide receiver 1. I don't think people view him that way.
Yeah, so I'm going to pick receivers as well. 2 receivers for my redraft stock up. It's because of a trade in L.A., but Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, they were still good receivers for us, but probably more of the wide receiver 2 variety. They might still get drafted in that just because of how people project from last year's stats. But with a healthy Matthew Stafford, we're going to have consistent play by Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. And I think their stock could start to rise at a back-end wide receiver 1, especially for guys with your strategy. You might be going running back heavy early And then you're looking for receivers. These are the receivers to get after those top tier guys are off the board. If you had got 2 good running backs, you come around your 3rd pick and you see a Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods, you got yourself probably a wide receiver 1 stats waiting for you right there.
So right now in ADP, they are going both in the 4th round. Robert Woods is almost a 5th round pick, going at wide receiver 23 and wide receiver 26, it looks like. So they're right now, you just said it, there's potential for that back end wide receiver 1 ability in there. Let me give you some guys near them and see what you think about these other options. So somebody that's going after or before them would be let's do Chris Godwin. So Chris Godwin versus a Cooper Kupp. Actually, first let's go to that. Who are you ranking above? Like who if you're in a draft right now and all things are equal and you need to pick one of those 2 wide receivers, who do you think has the better season between Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods?
I think Cooper Kupp does.
Okay. Just touchdowns, is that a big...
Touchdowns. Kupp is a red zone phenom.
Okay.
We don't think of that, and there's too many mouths to feed over there in Tampa Bay when it comes to red zone targets.
Okay, so back to my question then of would a Chris Godwin versus Cooper Kupp, what is your...
I go Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's one that I think that is going to be, like, the value will be there because I think a lot of people will see Tom Brady, the championship Bucks, and say,
yeah,
that's going to be elevated. But really, we didn't get a lot of time to see what Chris Godwin can do with Tom Brady, so there is risk in that. Another one close to him is your Minnesota Viking, Adam Thielen. Compare him to maybe a Robert Woods. Is that...
A Robert Woods comparison with Thielen? Oh, man, I would probably... it's a homer pick in me. It's a Thielen. It's the Thielen field. Robert Woods. It's so close, so nitpicky there.
Okay.
I would probably give the edge. I'll be honest. I'll give the edge to Robert Woods.
Okay.
Because the offense is going to give more passing. It's going to be more passing calls in that offense than it will be in Minnesota.
Yeah. And then another one here just to kind of drive the point home that may go above him is let's say like a Juju Smith-Schuster. People have fallen in love with Juju Smith-Schuster. That's, I think, a good example of where I would definitely draft a Robert Woods, stabilize my fantasy team. I don't know what's going on with Ben and his arm and all that.
Yeah.
So just that's kind of a place in a draft where you can look at this and say people aren't going to value Robert Woods. He's old. Every year he's undervalued. And like you said, I think he's somebody that his draft stock should definitely rise up.
Yeah. All right, so we went from rising up. Now we got some draft stock and coming down. So redraft stock.
Got to talk about the bad.
All right, let's go to
when
you.
We're talking about the bad. Let's talk about my terrible Dolphins.
Yes.
No, we're on the upswing. This is a good thing for the Dolphins in themselves, but a bad thing for Devontae Parker and Mike Gesicki. This offseason was not kind to them. They drafted Jalen Waddle with the 6th overall pick, and then they also went out and acquired Will Fuller at wide receiver. So I think that as far as an offseason, those 2 names specifically really, really took a hit as far as where you're going to draft these guys in a redraft. Devontae Parker, I think they may become values just based on that. Everybody's going to kind of be hands-off on the Dolphins because it's like, I don't know who to pick. Tua didn't look great. And, they're still... these are good weapons. Somebody may emerge as a fantastic fantasy value, so it may be worth taking that chance if they're lower in your draft. But as far as drafting them where they would have been like last year, if you're comparing their seasons to the years before, like Devontae Parker is one that I think is really going to take a hit because of the 2 new options at wide receiver.
Oh yeah, and I would argue Gesicki might get more touchdown opportunities. Mm-hmm. When Tua and him get on the same page.
Yeah.
It was frustrating. I was frustrated alongside you.
Yeah.
But as a Gesicki owner in a lot of drafts, because he was my sleeper tight end going in, well, not much of a sleeper, but he was my targeted tight end, I was so mad of how poorly they used him in the red zone.
Yeah. You started to see glimpses of it, so that, there's potential for it, but I just think overall, really just that Dolphins offense is going to be a hard one in the draft to navigate. So
yeah, so my draft stock down, I think he was starting to trend there anyways, is Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
When people might have thought, hey, some plus side, Philip Lindsay left going to Houston. But when they drafted, I believe it was Javonte Williams, everybody's excited about this. This young man. He's a dynamic back out of UNC, and he's fresh legs.
Yeah.
That's a big name. Like we fall in love with the names at running back, but I tell you you hear from experts all the way around, it's like shelf life for a running back. They go quicker than almost any other position. So they might be great names, but guess what? We're going to go with the younger guy because we can pay him less and he can take on more hits to his body. And then also Mike Boone, he was a Minnesota Viking running back, so I know a little bit of him, but still he might be a third down back. Well, not really. He'll just be a spill running back coming in there giving him breaks. But Javonte Williams is going to take snaps, and I don't think it's going to be a 50-50 share. It might go 70-30 once Williams catches on in the offense.
So here's an interesting question, I think. Come draft season, I think these guys could actually be close because of the rookie factor.
Yeah.
If you're in a draft, are you drafting in a redraft? In Dynasty, obviously, it's going to be Javonte Williams. But in a redraft, are you going to draft Melvin Gordon or Javonte Williams?
Javonte Williams.
Okay. Now, this is the rookie king over here.
That's
this guy loves to elevate his rookies and won a championship on the back of Todd Gurley doing so.
Yeah, 3 of them. But I just like it's a push for the playoffs, right? That's where I think Javonte Williams will be your playoff back.
Yeah, I think that's important for people to know. If you're going to go with that strategy, just know that you're thinking playoffs, you're not thinking beginning of the season. You're going to need to have other options to start because I think it will be a slow burn.
Cam Akers.
Yeah.
Prime example.
Good example of that.
Happened last year. I was high on him. The beginning of the year, I looked like an idiot. Looked like a fool talking about how great he was. But he helped win some leagues toward the end of the year because the Rams finally stopped playing the little carousel game and gave him the ball, and he was giving out great stats playoff time for us at Fantasy. So I think we could see the same thing with Javonte Williams.
Okay. If I was in a draft, I would be contrary to you. I think still Melvin Gordon is worth picking up and then trading him. Like that's the caveat there. So if I'm in a draft, the value is going to be for the first. I mean, it's going to take a while, I think, for Javonte to pull it away from him. So I would say for the first 6 weeks, you're going to have a running back 2 in Melvin Gordon, whereas Javonte Williams, you're going to be sitting there with this person on your bench that you're just hoping eventually is going to break. I mean, take it from the Cam Akers owner last year. I had this happen, and it was not fun.
No.
So I will probably go the Melvin Gordon route, draft him, let him explode a couple games, trade him away to somebody, and then, halfway through the season, start looking at the Javonte Williams to pick him up.
Yeah, from in our personal league, having these past 2 seasons and missing the playoffs, but I always started off every season well.
Yeah.
And like burn out, I might be switching that strategy for those young legs. So let's talk Dynasty trade season real quick. Don't want to jump too much. If you're in a Dynasty league, awesome. That means you found a bunch of guys that love to talk football 24/7, 365.
Yeah, we just started one a year ago. It's been awesome. I've never been part of the Dynasty community. If you're thinking about it, get your friends together and do it because it's so much fun.
Yeah,
well,
it is.
A big tip that I would say is if you're going to do this, probably won't matter for your first startup, but if you guys are in a Dynasty league already and you guys do a rookie draft, do a slow draft.
Yeah, so much fun.
We just did a slow draft with it, and it was so much. Like I've never felt more like a general manager than when we were doing that slow draft because there's literally on the phone texting. I mean even called and talked to a few guys as you're trying to trade picks and decide where you want to get the players you want.
I was at dinner at my girlfriend's parents' place during the first part of the draft. My pick was coming up. I was getting trade offers left and right, and I was trying not to be rude.
I know. Same with me. I was at the Melting Pot, like this fancy restaurant, and I got my phone out just like
excuse yourself to the bathroom for a while.
Who wants to trade for the 112 here?
All right, so we're going to do a trade for and a trade away here. And this can be a little closer to home because this happened in our home league, and I feel like we should talk about this more because these are going to be two players right now relevant in trade talks in Dynasty.
All right, so kick us off here. What's our trade for? Who are we going and getting?
Go get Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I love it.
CEH is being sold so low. But look at this.
That's right, Tim. You sold him low.
Last season was a downer, right? Because they traded up and got him in the first round. But the improved offensive line, which I love every move that they made. First off, I don't know where they're finding the money in Kansas City to pay these guys. All right, and making Baltimore trade one of their best offensive linemen to them. Doesn't make any sense. But that running back is attached to Patrick Mahomes. You're like, well, that's a bad thing. No, because if that means he'll be taking all that pressure off Mahomes when defenses are starting to blitz him. They're going to let's hand this ball off to CEH. And he was used. We saw glimpses of what he can be like in that offense. I would get him now. Owners that were disappointed, you might have to trade some future capital for him, but he could be an RB1 for you this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's a guy to go after. People are just undervaluing what he did last year. They were expecting a Kareem Hunt breakout instantly. I think it's still possible. I don't think he's as talented as Kareem Hunt is, but he's as talented as Damian Williams, and Damian Williams had a heck of fantasy production when he was the lone running back for the Kansas City Chiefs.
People forgot how great Kareem Hunt is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's splitting now with Nick Chubb, but, man, someone should, in the actual NFL, trade for him because he's so good.
Yeah.
Such a great talent.
All right, and then my trade away, which I just did a couple weeks ago in our league, is Julio.
What?
Now, I know Julio he's the man. I love Julio. I was actually talking with the guy I traded with. We were kind of talking about because we did this prior to him going to Tennessee. I wanted to get out. I didn't want to risk him going to New England or something like that where it would be a disaster scenario and his value would just tank. Nobody would want him. So I got out on the Julio. But what I'm saying is you can still trade Julio. There's going to be people that see that Tennessee transition as not that bad for him, that it's kind of even. Tannehill, Matt Ryan, not a crazy difference in, efficiency as far as throwing the football. And I think it's a good time to get out, especially in a dynasty league, because the shoe could drop at any minute. I love Julio, and I think that Julio still has it. Like this year, talent-wise, I think he's not going to lose anything. But it's going to happen. It's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years.
32-year-old receiver. First off, in the real NFL, so you got Julio Jones and DeAndre Hopkins, both got traded away for second-round picks.
Yeah.
Can someone tell me how that makes any sense? Especially DeAndre Hopkins when that happened. But Julio, you kind of saw the decline. But even last year, when he was on the field, he was boss level. It's just getting him on the field.
Yep.
When he's suited up and he said he's ready to go, you're going to say, yes, start in my lineup because he's going to produce.
So don't hear what I'm not saying. When you trade Julio, you're not trading him for pennies. Like, you need to get some value out of him. Mm-hmm. I think you can play off of the trade hype right now that happened in the actual NFL. There are people that will, there may be a Tennessee Titan fan in your league that's going, oh my gosh, he's about to explode on my team. I have to have Julio Jones. Target those guys. Just as an example of a trade that I did, which I think is a lot more fair now. Like I feel like I was doing really well with it when we didn't know where he was going. Now that he's gone to a fairly good place, I think you could get a deal done like this, which is I traded for Michael Thomas. People are down on Michael Thomas. They just, last year hurt whoever had him. It just, there was no production based on the injury, and then you saw a little bit of him with Taysom Hill. It wasn't great. I think he was still very injured in those games, and that's why you didn't see the production. Just a year ago, we had him ranked as the Dynasty number one overall wide receiver, and we knew Drew Brees was going to retire. Like, he wasn't going to play more than one more year. So I just think he's another guy, kind of another trade for would be a Michael Thomas. So if you can you're not going to probably be able to get that even swap, but, throw in some draft picks, throw in a low-level bench guy that you have, see if you can make that happen, because I think just in general in Dynasty, these aging players, you want to get out on them before that cliff happens than waiting till after it does, and then there's no value.
And I'm all about the draft picks.
Yep.
Big time there, be able to pile up draft picks and move up the board during the rookie draft. That is something, if you can swing draft picks for an aging player, you're going to come out on the winning side because you're going to replace them with somebody fresh coming out of college.
Yep. So last just little note that we have here is we've got some rebranding news here.
Yes, we do.
So we've lost Ryan from the podcast. He's moved over the pond. He's
crossed the river.
He got married and he's living a little further away and just getting busy with life. So it's from now on, it's just gonna be me and Chris coaching the commish.
Yes, sir.
So just be paying attention. We're potentially changing names. We'd love any feedback you guys have about the new season. We're right now kind of trying to develop what we want to do. We might push a little more towards the YouTube. But yeah, just give us your guys' input. Pay attention to the next couple episodes. We'll probably put another one out in July, and then we'll hit the ground running in August. So.
Oh yeah, I can't wait.
I know.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, and drop in the comments. Let us know what you think about our rebranding and be the Coaching Commish. Coaching the Commish is our name, I believe, pushing forward. If you don't like it, let us know soon because it's going to go up. So, all right, guys. We'll talk to you later. See you soon.
Deuces.